everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. The ARC of California is thrilled to offer Caring Futures, a proven resource program dedicated to supporting caregivers and family members of adults with disabilities. Understanding the unique challenges faced by family caregivers as they age, Caring Futures offers critical planning assistance, resources, and a supportive community. Caring Conversations is just one part of Caring Futures program here at the ARC of California. We will share more about our other offerings by Caring Futures at the end of today's conversation, so please stay tuned. As you see, we have ASL interpretation for our discussion today. You can turn on closed captioning by clicking the button in the bar below. At the end of today's conversation, there will be a question and answer session. At that time, we will invite you to raise your hand or type your question in the Q&A to ask our guests directly. Hello, everyone. In case you haven't met me before in a previous Caring Conversation, my name is Felisa Strickland. I am a sole parent caregiver for my daughter, Lily. Lily is 24 years old. She has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, and IDD, and she requires full-time care. We enjoy our challenging and fun life in Santa Barbara, California. Alongside full-time caregiver, I am a strong advocate for individuals with disabilities and their families. I serve as a board member for the ARC of California, as well as Alpha Resource Center of Santa Barbara. I also participate on many committees and enjoy getting involved in fundraisers and advocacy projects in our community. As a parent, Caring Futures instructor, and parent educator, I am thrilled to be here for this important conversation with you and our special guest. Today's topic is navigating college for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. A parent's journey to inclusion, advocacy, and empowerment.
Get down.
Joining us for today's conversation is Melissa Fitch. Melissa is mother of 5 with a 22-year-old son who has Down syndrome and moya moya, a rare arterial brain disease. Over the past 22 years, Melissa has gained invaluable experience through her on-the-job training in inclusion and disabilities and has become an influential advocate, mentor, and friend to many families across Santa Barbara County. As the founding member and president of the Down Syndrome Association of Santa Barbara County, Melissa has been at the forefront of numerous disability awareness campaigns and events in her community. Her passion for raising awareness and fostering inclusion shines through her current role as the host of a weekly radio show, Raising Ryan, on air at KZSB and online. Alongside her sister, Lisa Homan, and special guests, Melissa shares stories of caregiving resources and support and helping others navigate the challenges and opportunities in the world of disability. In addition to her advocacy work, Melissa is an independent facilitator and person-centered planner. She completed the independent facilitator training through the California State Council of Developmental Disabilities and assists families and individuals in recognizing and achieving their dreams through the person-centered planning self-determination process. Melissa is also a graduate of the Alpha Resource Center Parent-to-Parent Training and Family Voices of California's Project Leadership programs. She has served on numerous boards and committees and is currently a member of the SCDD Central Coast Regional Advisory Committee and TCRC's SDP, LAC, and Inclusive College Alliance. Without further ado, please welcome Melissa.
Thanks, Felisa. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I am so happy that you could join us today and have this important conversation. Before we get started, I just gave a little bit of information about you. But before we get started, could you tell me a little bit more about you, your life with Ryan, and maybe when you started to realize that college was part of his chosen path?
So Ryan is number 4 of 5 children, and he's always been fully included in school. He walked to our neighborhood school for kindergarten. We had him go to preschool at 2 years old, and he was fully included in that until the county programs and support started for him. But I would have to say when he was in kindergarten, he was going to college. Um, there was just no, it was all him saying that that was just what happened. And it was probably from having older siblings and older cousins that were going to college. His next oldest or his oldest sibling is 12, 15 years older than him. So he got to see a lot of different things. And like you grow up, you go to high school, you go to college. That's just what you do. So that's what he was going to do. So it was just up to us to figure out how to get him there.
Yeah, he
So
had his mind made up, it sounds like.
yeah, and he always has been that way and probably always will be that way. When Ryan puts his mind to something, that's what is going to happen. And it's up to the rest of us to help him figure out how to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like his attitude in life is more, why not me? Why can't we do that, right? Like why can't I do everything that everybody else is? So he doesn't even have the mindset of being held back in any way, right? And that's
Yeah.
probably largely due to, like you said, his examples he's followed, but also your encouragement and support. Um, you were a big part of helping him make this happen. So I I want to talk about that a little bit. So once you knew that college was what he wanted to do, what were some of the action steps that you had to take that helped him bring his dream alive?
So all through school, I was always really involved in the school district, as you know, here in Santa Barbara. And kind of got involved in everything to try just to make sure that I knew what was going on and to be able to bring different opportunities. So I think it was, and I don't honestly don't remember the year. Ryan was probably in ninth or 10th grade. No, yeah, ninth grade, I think. So maybe 2017, 2018. Um, I learned about Think College, and they had published their two books. So on Facebook, I remember posting, "Look, I just got my books,"
I
and they
remember
were,
that too.
remember that post, right? So that's where it started for me to really, where I really started like, okay, what's going to be next for him? I knew that our Santa Barbara City College had a great DSPS, which is the Disability Services and Programs for Students. Um, and so I always had in mind that at least he would go there. But my sister lives outside of Atlanta, Lisa, who's my co-host on Raising Ryan, and so there's two universities in Atlanta or in Georgia that have 4-year inclusive college programs, and so she had always talked about, oh well, maybe Ryan can come live with me or come live in Georgia and go to school there. And so I started to ask around to like the guidance counselors and whatnot, and nobody really, they don't know, like they don't plan, like our school districts aren't focused on that for our kids with disabilities. They're not focused on the next step. They're focused on, oh well, you finished and you're 18, well you could go into the transition program that the school district does. Well, I Ryan wanted to do something more than that. And he graduated with a diploma, so that wasn't even an option for him. So I had brought, I know I just kind of squirreled, sorry. I had brought those books to the district and said, hey, look at this resource, and got on the transition committees and all of that. And it never went anywhere. So I just kept looking around and doing things on my own. There's um, he went to Dos Pueblos High School, and we have a great connection with the Bridges program through the DOR at that site. And so I got to be friends with the people who ran it, and they did a transition fair. And so just like through things like that, I started to research other programs and look for different opportunities for him. Um, but he did 2 senior years in order to graduate with a diploma. And in between his 2 senior years was COVID. So his first senior year ended in June of 2020, which at that time he was diagnosed with a rare arterial brain disease called moya moya, and he had had a small stroke. So we spent that summer in between the two senior years up at Stanford having two brain surgeries.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a whole side note. Obviously, you were here. But then when he came back and he was doing his final senior year, that was when we were really prepping, like, okay, what's going to be next for you? And thankfully surgeries went well and he was cleared from the doctors. But that real senior year was when we really did most of our planning. And we worked closely with Santa Barbara City College and their DSPS to set up a great schedule for him and all of that. So that was really where he was headed. And then we decided to apply to UC Davis because that application process, they were just opening their,
They're one of the first ones, right? That wasn't Ryan part of a pilot program there?
he was in the inaugural class of the very first 4-year fully inclusive college program in the state. So UC Davis Redwood Seed Scholars Program is the first 4-year with the residential component in the state of California. And it
Okay.
took California until 2021 to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what really stood out about what you just went through with us is you really had to take the lead on making this happen for him. It wasn't like the resources were just available. You had to do some exploring and some digging and, kind of see how can we make this happen. So I think that that's really an important point to share with families is that, first of all, don't assume that it's not possible. Second of all, do a little homework, partner with people who may have already done a little bit of navigating and, assume that you can do it and that you will find a way to to make it happen. And I love the fact that you just mentioned that you partnered with the local community college to sort of design a program for Ryan, because that's something that they're already doing. Tell me a little bit about that real quick before we move on to our next question. We were talking earlier about there's the 4-year option, the inclusive, the pilot program that Ryan was part of, and then there's the typical at college access that's been available for a while for just people in general with disabilities. What are the differences between those programs?
Well, the UC Davis program has the residential component, and
Okay.
that really is huge. There are other 2-year programs in the state that have a residential program. There's thought I had written that down. I know there's Taft has a 2-year, Fresno State has a 2-year, and UCLA. I think those 4. So, and I think UCLA can be 3 years. The other 2, Taft and Fresno State, are both 2. I'm pretty sure. But so again, that Think College website it's gotten to be amazing. It's the best resource for families. It's thinkcollege.net. And on there, you can look at the whole country. You can do all sorts of searches of, like, do you want a residential component? Do you want closer to your house? I mean, you can find everything. So on there, they do have 22 programs listed in the state of California. But I think those programs are more specific. Like Ryan, currently he's at Santa Barbara City College. He's taking 4 classes and he's fully included because he has a disability and he's taking college classes. And he gets his supports through the DSPS.
Okay.
So just because there's not a school listed doesn't mean you can't walk into your community college and say, hey, my child would like to take classes here. How are we going to make this happen? Because the supports, I was so impressed with Santa Barbara City College. And I honestly think that academically, he's getting supported better there and the resources that they have because they've been doing it for so long. They've got these things in place. He has an app. I don't know if anybody's already heard of it, but of course I'm going to forget the name of it. But they gave him an app to put on his phone literally, he gets into class and he can push the button and sit his phone down, and it will take class notes for him.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's phenomenal. So the resources that are available, even just at your local community colleges, they're there. You just have to ask.
Yeah, the
So
access is always the thing, right? And what you when you don't know that you have access, you don't, and you may not, there's so much going on in our lives day to day that it's overwhelming to think about all the moving parts. But that's
it
very
really is.
helpful.
So one other thing that we had brought up earlier when we were chatting, for students who actually need more supports, like you can hire an outside agency to be your educational mentor or aid or whatever phrase we want to use to actually go to class with your student if need be. The colleges don't typically provide that, but you never know. You might run into
Again,
one
if you
that
don't
has a
ask,
different program or has something else going on, or who would be like, hey, we have this great grad student who needs to do something like that. You never know unless you ask. But you can
right.
always provide your own supports and have them go with you or with your child. So there's always an option. There's always a workaround.
Um, yeah, so I was just getting ready to ask you about, different college options, and I really feel like that you just did a great job of giving some insight into that. So there's thinkcollege.net for people that want to explore that and find out what kind of, are there residential options? Are there programs where you don't have to do the residential part of it? And then of course, just walking into your local community college and seeing how to make it happen. That's another one that I don't know that people always think of that as an option, right? Even if they might realize that there's disability services at college, they might think, well, that doesn't apply to my child, or that's not programs not designed for me. But it sounds like that there are supports that could apply to any level of disability. Is that accurate?
I believe so, especially you just have to get in there and see what they'll work with
How
because
they'll work with
colleges,
you.
yeah, I mean, I think that obviously every situation is different, every student's different, every person with a disability is different, and every neurotypical person is different. So it's just finding the right supports to make each person successful.
I love
And
that. Yeah. So now that Ryan's completed a few years of the program up at UC Davis and now at Community City, Santa Barbara City College, what are some of the things that other people could expect to get out of the experience, and how has it enhanced Ryan's life?
um it definitely, well, growing, just aging and developing and getting more independence. All of those things have happened to him since he graduated high school. um he's definitely more driven. He's doing great at Santa Barbara City College, signed himself up for 4 classes. I was actually away on vacation well, actually, my husband and I both were away. And he was home, and a cousin was helping him out, and he signed up for some extra classes. So he's got 4 courses at Santa Barbara City College, and he's doing great.
It sounds like he
He's
likes college life.
he does. He loves it. He loves to be like he loves going to class. It's the coolest thing. Of course, he's taking things that are right up his alley, right? He's taking songwriting, screenwriting, intro to film, and child development. So it's all the stuff that he loves. And that, I think that's the key, really, is with any of us, you want to take what you love and then go from there.
Yeah, and defining your interests is a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
To make it a successful venture. So are there any reflections or pertinent questions that you would suggest families ask themselves or others when helping them decide which option might be right for them?
I think that the biggest thing is to really be sure that the supports that child or whatever you want to, your loved one is going to receive at a specific program are appropriate supports, and really knowing the ins and outs. Ryan's, he was at UC Davis, and it's one of those, it's a first time, and we were told, you're starting a program, that it could be great because it's brand new, or it could not be great because it's brand new. So you just have to make sure that when you enter into any program, that it's the right fit, and that the main thing, especially with our kids, is supports. And what do those supports look like, and how are you going to be sure that that's what's actually being provided, especially if there's a residential component. That's something you want to be aware of.
Well, that's a perfect segue into my next question, because you mentioned a couple of comments back about, being able to bring in your own supports and, say, for example, to make your college experience successful. So you're also an independent facilitator and a person-centered planner. So tell us a little bit about that, and how self-determination program might be helpful for someone navigating the college experience, and what would be some of the benefits?
Okay, well, I was not an independent facilitator or a person-centered planner until Ryan was accepted into the program up at UC Davis, and they had suggested that all the students at that time go into self-determination to help with the funding of the program. So I started, he was accepted in June. I think it was July where they said that, to, like, we had the first parent meeting, and they said something like that would be helpful for funding. And so then I just got in touch with our regional center here, Tri-Counties, and was able to essentially fast track. We got Ryan signed up with a self-determination and a budget and all of that within like six or 8 weeks. He was in the system and done. And I had gone through the whole training to be able to do all of that for him and to be his independent facilitator. So again, it was on the job training. It was out of necessity. And then I had other families just kind of reaching out to me to help them. And so it just has snowballed. And here we are, almost 4 years later. And so that's, yes. So I help a lot of different families. So one great thing about self-determination, obviously, is the flexibility, and it is the ability to use your own providers and find your own people and find your own services and do what the person wants to do. So, for Ryan, it's been great because it gives him so much more independence and makes his choices for things and activities, and he knows when he needs help with things, and so that it definitely allows for a lot of flexibility. And as we all know, some of the staffing is difficult, and trying to find staff if you're not in self-determination can be a headache. So
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to find people that are experts in whatever your interests are, right? So you can find people that are actually passionate about the same things, that want to actually, help support your child or adult or loved one, like you said, with whatever their interests are. So as I mentioned earlier in your intro, you stay quite busy as president of the Down Syndrome Association for Santa Barbara, and also with hosting your radio show, Raising Ryan. Could you share a little bit about some of the new projects that the Down Syndrome Association of Santa Barbara County is working on? And then maybe tell us a little bit about how you decided to start Raising Ryan, and how people can listen in and maybe even join you for a show.
yes, definitely. So the Down Syndrome Association of Santa Barbara County, a couple of moms and I started it I think in 2009 now, 2008 maybe. Um, we do a lot of social and family parent to parent support. We host great events, as Felisa knows, because she's always at them. We do a hoedown in October to celebrate Down syndrome awareness, and we do a buddy walk in June, which is our biggest fundraiser. We currently are doing a power hour, which is an exercise class, and we've partnered with the Grace Fisher Foundation here in Santa Barbara, and they have what's called the Inclusive Arts Clubhouse in La Cumbre Plaza. It's a great facility, open Wednesday through Sunday from 11 to 5, and it's a wonderful place to just drop in and do some artwork, play some music. It's a phenomenal place. Every city should have one. But so we use that space to do our exercise class twice a week, which that's a sign up course. So we're in mid session now. And that really focuses on core strength, and people with Down syndrome are a little floppy. So, but we are not Down syndrome exclusive. All of our events are inclusive. Anybody's welcome. Tonight we have our once a month dance party class at the Inclusive Arts Clubhouse. That's a fun one where you just come and dance for an hour, and we play all sorts of everybody's favorite songs get played, and we have a wonderful teacher, Rachel Quitner, who can get in there with everybody, verbal, nonverbal, everybody. She gets them all moving. And then what else do we do? Ryan is hosting a karaoke night there once a month. We just had that last Friday. And isn't there something else we do, Felisa? What else do we do there? I don't know. That's about it.
Gosh, I don't
But
know. That's a lot. And
it's
all
a
of those
lot.
things are amazing. And that space is amazing. And just, you know, I think the main message is, you know, find those resources in your community that have those little those places where you can go and enjoy yourself and feel like you're part of something. And it's hard sometimes when you don't know where to find those things. But yeah, all of those are amazing. I've attended many of them, and tonight I'm teaching a self-care matters class right during the dance hour, which I was disappointed that we couldn't make dance, but I am excited for a self-care matters class tonight. So, but yeah, you guys have done an amazing job with just bringing some extra things for our families to get involved with and to do with their time. But tell me, I want to real quick before we have to move on. Tell me about Raising Ryan and the radio show, because I really am excited about you you know, taking that next step and making that happen and bringing more resources.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So I really like my real job is I have a marketing agency in Santa Barbara, and I have for 22 years been on my own with doing that. So I've always had the media connections in town. And somebody I've asked me to be guests on the regular radio, like just multiple times. I've been guests on lots of programs. And then somebody reached out and was like, you know, you should really do your own show. And I'm like, yeah. So they kind of I don't want to say forced my hand, but like strongly encouraged me to do it. And so it's a local station here in Santa Barbara, KZSB, which is 96.9 if you're local. And it's on Tuesday mornings from 11 to 12, and then it rebroadcasts 3 other times throughout the week. And I do a weekly show and just talk about all sorts of different things. It's kind of very, very similar to what we're doing here. My sister is my co-host, and sometimes she makes it and sometimes she doesn't. But we bring on all sorts of guests. I've had people from like the managers of the state council. I've had our local district manager for the Department of Rehabilitation. I've had you on, other parents who have come up with great resources to share how they did it and what resources there are that, you know, the show that's on this week, you have to listen to it. I was amazed. It was a mom who's a friend of ours from growing up. My sister's really close with her, and she has a 30, I don't know if he's 30, 31-year-old son who has autism. And there's a phrase that she said, and I can't remember it. I'll remember it at some other time, but it's something, oh, something verbal, but it's not that you're not necessarily, unreliably verbal.
Never heard
Unreliably
that.
verbal. I think that's what it is. So he's verbal, but he's not reliable with his being
Yeah.
verbal. Which I thought was quite interesting. Anyway, so she found this other program that she's been working with him. I think it's Spell to Communicate or something. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah,
It's on my
spelling.
website.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting how parents find these things, and then all of the different things that are out there that we just don't know about. And you definitely can't rely on the school district to tell you everything. It's parent to parent, so that that's where you get like the nitty gritty good stuff, and really find out about the supports, because most of the times it's the parents that are telling the school district. I hate to say it,
Yeah.
or at
Well,
least enlightening.
yeah, we are the
And
innovators, that's for sure. That is for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, well, so where can you just mentioned listening to it? Where can people listen to Raising Right? It's on SoundCloud, right?
it's on
So if
SoundCloud.
you
So if
don't
you go to
catch the actual show, you can go back and listen to it where in SoundCloud?
yeah, they're all on SoundCloud, and it's Raising Ryan. If you go to raisingryan.org, that's the my website, and there's a link right up top to the SoundCloud where all of the shows are. And then I have a resource page that connects you to some of the information that the guests have talked about. So that's all right there on raisingryan.org.
Oh,
So
that's
it's fun. If
awesome.
anybody wants to be a guest, please reach out to me. We love to share. That's what it's
Yeah,
all
that
about, sharing stories and resources.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, do check it out. It's a great show. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapping up and getting ready to go into questions. Do you have any last thoughts before we move on, Melissa? Anything that you want people to sit with as we end the show?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. And definitely, if you don't find the answer you're looking for, keep asking. Ask somebody else, because supports come in all shapes and sizes, and you will find the right supports for your situation.
No, I love that. Thank you so much. All right, well, we're going to get to questions in just a minute. But before we move on, let me just tell you guys a little bit about our Future is Now. So the Future is Now, designing a support plan for you and your adult family member, is a 6-week live online class series where caregivers develop a comprehensive future planning guide for the caregiver and their adult family member with a disability, all in a small and welcoming environment. We are excited to announce that we just launched our new self-paced online classes as well. Self-Care Matters, Well-Being for the Caregiver is a 2-week live online class series where caregivers learn about and practice tips, resources, and strategies to improve or sustain their well-being. Future is Now and Self-Care Matters classes are also offered in Spanish. Visit the Caring Futures website at caringfutures.org and join our mailing list to keep up to date on these offerings and to register for classes and more. Also, if you want to continue this conversation, then I invite you to join the Caring Futures Facebook group. It's a private group only for family caregivers and is a safe space for us to share our triumphs and challenges. A link to the Facebook group will be posted in the chat right now. Thank you again for staying for questions, Melissa, and thank you for being here today. So let's go ahead and get into our questions. It looks like we have some for sure. So we'll just go ahead and dive in. So the first question, reflecting back, would you and Ryan have made any changes to his education journey? Would you have still gone on the diploma track?
Yes, I still would have done the diploma track. I think the biggest change I would have made, and this is going to sound silly, I would have put him into the state preschool that was in our elementary school. Instead, I had him in a private preschool that then the county schools came in and did some stuff with him, but our school had an amazing preschool. Our neighborhood school had a state funded preschool, and I would have put him in that.
So
That's
starting all the way
probably
back to the beginning.
all
Yeah.
the way back. That is the one thing that I was like, oh, I wish I had. Um, Other than that, I probably would have been a little pushier with him. Like, my mother was a Montessori teacher, and she's always like, make sure you have good routines. And I am, Felisa knows me. I'm kind of, we're very, we have a lot going on, and we're always like, yeah, you can do it. Make sure you get it done,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I probably would have structured his world a little bit more, but I don't know, because I think he's great. I
Yeah.
think just routines. There is something to say, and I'm sure all those parents out there who have a child with Down syndrome, Ryan runs on his own schedule. When Ryan is determined and he is driven and excited about something, there's no stopping him. But if he doesn't want to do it, he's not necessarily going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So
we're all
there
a
is a
little
bit
bit
of the,
like that.
yeah, but I think that really is the biggest thing I would have done differently. Because he did, our school system really supported him quite well. So
Well, that's
I think
always
he
good to
turned out all
hear.
right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't it wasn't without struggle, and it took a lot of me being involved with a lot of different things. But he was able to get pretty much everything he needed through school. So, but that's the biggest thing I would have changed, preschool.
Yeah, starting from the beginning. I mean, it is, yeah, and sometimes you don't know till you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
you don't know what you need to do until you realize that you need to do it. So we have a request for the app that you mentioned about taking the class notes. So if you're able to type that in the chat, I don't know, or type or we could put it in
I'll
for you.
definitely, yeah. I'll let you know before you send out your thing, because it's on Ryan's phone.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I
we'll
will
send
get
it
it to
out
you, and then
and
when you send out,
okay, we'll send it out in a follow-up email. Is there anyone aware of reasonable accommodations for those that can't be in person? Not sure I understand that question. Is anyone aware of reasonable accommodations for those that can't be in person?
I would say that I think it's virtual. So there's
Yeah.
definitely still a lot of the college programs. I mean, they're offering online courses. So you would probably just need to look through the course catalog and choose ones that are online, and then maybe reach out to the DSPS at your particular site and see if they offer that. I mean, Zoom is obviously everywhere now, and it is definitely a wonderful tool for those of us that can't be in person. So I think it's just see if that support's available where you're looking.
Okay. What do you recommend for students who are over 18 but have not graduated high school yet? How to convince those students to graduate? What do you recommend if physical attendance is not practical?
I would think that's something you'd have to work out with your high school. Um,
Hmm.
and I again, Zoom, if they will tolerate that, and if the school will allow it. um, I'm not I'm
Yeah,
not positive on
it's a
that
broad
one. I mean,
question. And yeah,
that's
I think you're going to have to probably, because that is something that I know that I've heard that some families have been challenged with getting the school to accept virtual. So I think it might involve maybe getting some advocacy support to make that happen for your family. Do
yeah.
you know of any resources like Think College for disabled students who don't have intellectual disabilities? We're excited about the UC Davis program, but our son doesn't qualify for that reason.
Oh, then if he just has
Physical
a
disabilities.
physical disability, then he can go anywhere. and all of the colleges. So every single school has to have, or I shouldn't say every single, but most colleges and universities have the disability services and programs for students, or excel, or it's called accessibility services. So just reach out to whatever university or college that your son's interested in and ask them how they support students with physical disabilities.
Okay, great. Thank you. Um, as an independent facilitator, can you briefly explain the pros and cons of having direct services versus being on self-determination? We are looking to make the change to SDP as our loved one is increasing his independence with the support of personal assistance. So in your
Um,
opinion, what are the benefits?
in my opinion, it's the flexibility and uh, the the independent decision making for the person served. So like Ryan wants to be able to take music lessons at a certain place. Well, he can, because it doesn't matter if somebody's vendored or not vendored. He can take lessons wherever he wants. And he can have anybody he wants be his support staff. He can Uber, he can do all of those things because he's in self-determination. If he was not in self-determination and you had to go through the traditional services, then it would be a different story. You'd have to
Do
use
you,
specific providers.
right, and you'd have to go through the typical processes of getting those each individual service authorized, which I think you still have to
Well, you
get
still do.
everything authorized for your budget,
Yeah.
but once it's authorized, then you have the freedom and the flexibility to make your own choices about who's going to provide the services, right? Is that right?
Correct, but they still have to be, like, you still have to onboard them with your FMS. So that's the financial management service that actually controls the payment of all of your invoices and pays your staff. As a person who is in self-determination, there's other components besides an independent facilitator. Then you also have the financial management service, and they're the ones that receive the actual authorizations from the regional center, and they're under certain service codes. And so you create a spending plan once you're given a budget, and then that
Mhm.
spending plan is what gets given to the FMS, and that's what the authorizations match. So your spending plan says, okay, well, I'm going to take music lessons, and I'm going to have this many hours of staff support, and there's all different service codes, and then it's funded. Does that make sense the way I said it?
Yes, yes, it did. Thank you. Okay, so next question. I have a 15-year-old child who is currently functioning at a uh, KG level. Um, he can read simple text and math is a struggle. He will complete high school with a certification of completion. Is it reasonable to explore college option for him to gain life skills and explore career options? He likes to go to school and connects well with people, but his autism and other comorbid conditions such as anxiety and OCD needs very careful management. What are your
Of
thoughts
course
on
it
that,
is.
Melissa?
I think, of course it is, because you're not going to stop him from growing up. And so you want to be able to support him the best you can to make him as independent as he can be, right? And so all of these additional life trainings, life skills, life experiences are going to help to do that. There's plenty of, like, again, look on Think College. There's 22 different programs listed there, but in the state of California. But then there's, again, like Santa Barbara City College is not listed, and we're able to come up with programs for or build a program for Ryan to be successful there. So it's just a matter of finding where your son is gonna, I think she said son, is gonna
Yes.
receive the best support to be able to be successful. And the programs that you can see online, like, Taft and Fresno State, they all are, they focus on life skills. So those are programs that are built for people like your son.
Yeah, there's no minimum requirement on your ability, right? So your ability is not really factored into that. It's more about making sure that, like you said before, that you have the correct and the necessary supports for the program to be successful for him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So how is Ryan's social life with the program that he went through, the SEED program, and outside of the program? What is his interest beyond the program? So obviously he's continuing on with college in a different program. So we know that part, but do you feel like I think they're asking, in college and outside of college, what are Ryan's interests?
Ryan, well, up on that first, the slate that you had up, that's Ryan's YouTube page, and Ryan loves to create. He's definitely a creator. He wants to be YouTube famous. That's like, his dream. But so he loves to play golf. He loves to he plays the drums. He loves to write music. Um he's doing some videography work. He's helping realtors put together videos for open houses. Um, he's I don't know. He's very creative. Um, I
Do you feel
I
like
don't
his
know what
college
else.
program enhanced those skills for him?
No,
He already
actually,
had them.
yeah. Honestly, I think it
He's a natural.
didn't didn't focus on those things. I think that it didn't really clue into the fact that he should have been working with the media department, and
Hmm.
he should have been doing more filming and that type of stuff. So here he's doing that, which is great, and he's got a job. He just had a job interview with a some video company here in Santa Barbara that makes short films and commercials and stuff. So that's the world that he wants to be in. He wants to be in. I I'm not sure which side of the camera, because sometimes he goes back and forth. Like he definitely loves to write, and so he's written quite a few stories, and he's always working on a series or doing. He does a lot of writing on top of, and he's a really good photographer. He's got some great photography work. So he creates.
Well, and I think you make a good point though. It's in going back to, you know, the program you choose for college again should be focused on the things that you love and enjoy, and that's where you're going to get the most out of them, right? First, you need the supports, obviously, but you also need to make sure that what you're studying is of interest and stimulating to you so that you stay engaged with it. Yeah.
Yeah, without
So
a
we have
doubt.
another question. Does your son utilize a traditional college counselor for navigating the community college in addition to resources from DSPS, or is his counseling solely through DSPS?
He has both. He has a regular academic counselor that he meets with, and then he has a counselor through DSPS. And then at Santa Barbara City College, I have no experience with any of the others. Um, he has it's the DSPS has a lab that's open, I think, all the time. I mean, it's got crazy hours, and so he can go in there at any time, and there's always there's always people in there, tutors, to help. So he's gone in on his own a couple of times to just have get some assistance with making sure he's on track, and um, so that's been great. But he does meet with a regular, like every other college student there. They have an academic counselor to help them figure out what's next. So
Okay,
he's
great.
he's done that.
Um, Carrie asks, "Hi, Melissa. Did you experience any pushback from the colleges as you assisted Ryan over the age of 18? I think some of us are wondering how to best support our students as they continue their education over the age of 18 when they are expected to make their own educational decisions."
Well, again, Ryan's number 4 of 5, and there is not a time when any of my adult children have not reached out to my husband or myself to be like, hey, what should I do? I mean, I think that the programs who really try to cut the parents out are doing a disservice to everybody.
So that's your first red
You
flag, right?
That's a red flag. Yes, it's definitely,
But
at
maybe
least
that's
for
not the
me,
right program.
that may, yeah, because a student should never be told ever that they're not supposed to ask their parents something or tell their parents something. That's not okay. So Ryan, like now at Santa Barbara City College, he made his own appointments to go see when he first enrolled, he made his own appointment with the DSPS counselor. And I went with him, but I just sat off to the side. And the counselors, when they're, if it's a legitimately trained good counselor, I guess, I don't know how to put that, but they will obviously acknowledge the fact that yes, this student has a disability, and yes, you're the parent, and yes, you should be part of the discussion. But he focused all of his attention and questions to Ryan, which he should. And then he did, after everything was done, like, okay, do either of you have any questions? Or, and I, as a parent, try really hard to just sit back and let him run the meetings because it's his life. But definitely, parental input, we all need it. I still call my mom,
Yeah, yeah. It's such a good point.
um,
Yeah,
you
for
cannot,
sure.
and it really rubs me the wrong way. We did have experiences with a program that was like, no, and he got in trouble for telling me things, and I'm like, are you for real?
Yeah.
So there's yeah, it's a group effort. We're all part of the same team.
Yes,
Either you're in the
exactly.
band or you're out of the band.
Yeah. I want to be in the band. Janet
You're
asks,
in the band,
yeah.
Felisa.
Janet asks, I think they mean reasonable accommodations in the school environment when virtual learning is not a fit for the student. Oh, I think she might be answering a question that we brought up earlier.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, so another question. In my daughter's last IEP, they suggested to put her on certificate track so that she can get more time learning skills. General academics are very hard for her, but does not, but she does want college like her brother. What would you suggest? So I think that's making making the decision which track you should take in high school. And again, it seems like that should be more about parent input than school, but that's just me.
well, the differences, at least from what I know, and I don't really consider myself an expert on it. But and especially now there's another diploma that the state has put out there, which I don't understand because thankfully Ryan was done by then. So I don't know what that is. Have you heard about it?
I haven't. I did
And
hear that it was happening, but I don't know the specifics, so I'm not
yeah, and
sure.
I can't remember the name of it. But so I so for instance, most of the programs that are designed for students with intellectual disabilities, it doesn't matter, you don't have to have a diploma to go to these college programs. And again, I'm going to reference back to thinkcollege.net because there's one of the ways you can sort out the schools is diploma or certificate.
Okay.
um, so that's a good resource. But you I don't even think you need a diploma to go to a city college if you're just taking classes and you're not going for a degree, because anybody can take a class at a city college,
Well, and
right?
I think again, you probably just want to inquire with the student office about accessing the supports. Once you ask that question, they're going to start asking you the specifics and point you into the direction. I would think if they have accommodations for people with disabilities at that school, then they're going to know the different programs that are available based on diploma, not a diploma. And it looks like someone has put down at the bottom of our question here, the alternative to GED is CHSPE, California High School Proficiency Exam. I'm not sure that that's what you were
That's
referring to. No, that's something different. But thank you for clarifying that. But yeah, I'm thinking that again, it's just about picking the track that makes the most sense for your child in the moment that you're in, and don't let that deter you about exploring college when they get to that place. Right? Is that what you would say?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
We
it's
have,
and there's different requirements for and then if they do the certificate program, then they're able to stay those extra years for the transition program that the school districts offer. So they're able to stay in the under the school district umbrella until 22 and take
that
whatever
would be a big
courses.
determining factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they,
Otherwise, they're out when they graduate.
right. If they graduate with a diploma, then there is no option to stay and do transition program, correct? And then thank you for also clarifying that you don't have to have a diploma to attend these college programs. Like, I mean, meaning graduating
Yeah.
from high school with a diploma. We have time for just a couple more questions, and then we'll need to wrap up. But Anna asked, will students with intellectual disability follow the same steps as others to apply for financial aid?
Depends on the program. But yes, you would go ahead and do the FAFSA if your program wants you to.
Okay. And then we've got Joe who says,
But
thank you.
also,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Also, the Department of Rehab, which I never knew this, but the Department of Rehabilitation will pay for classes and they'll cover, like, I mean, this is all like definitely reach out to your own person, but they'll cover clothing for interviews. They really are very supportive of our young adults as they're trying to enter into, I mean, they want them to get jobs. So how do you get a good job? You get training, you get education, you have the supports needed, you have clothing, you have computers, you have a bike for transportation. All of those things the Department of Rehab can help with. So
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing
connect with
that.
your Department of Rehab counselor.
Yeah, no, that's great information. Okay, so as we wrap up, Joe says, thank you, Felisa. Thank you, Melissa. Ryan, and your story is inspiring. I have a senior at DP. He is autistic. One of his challenges is anxiety, and he struggles with making social connections. Has SBCC been a good environment for your son to connect with his peers?
Ryan's happy and I mean, right after the first day, he was like, oh, I saw blah, blah. I mean, but Ryan is an anomaly, and Ryan, his whole entire life, I swear you can't walk anywhere in Santa Barbara without somebody being like, hey, Ryan. I'm like, who was that? You know, young and old, he knows everybody. So he instantly made connections at City College and had friends of friends who were in class with him. So he's been fine as far as that goes. And then, we try to, so hopefully, since your son is at Dos Pueblos, have him come to some of the events that we do at the clubhouse. Like the Friday night karaoke is fun. It's a Friday night outing. And have him hang out with more peers, and that will hopefully help with everything. But yeah, City College has been great for Ryan. And again, every student's different, but you can get pretty good supports there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so much about your life and your experiences, Melissa. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.